as opposed to print on paper. So
yeah, that's exactly.
And he does more car graphics and car wrapping and that type of thing. Whereas Tim, I think, is more around sort of marketing collateral that you'd use in a typical sense. But
exactly. He's going to talk to Luke today, I think. So.
Okay, great, excellent.
Morning, Nigel. Morning, Sean.
Morning, David. Morning, Stefano.
Morning, Stefano.
Good morning, everyone.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. Getting there, I think.
Good.
There's a lot of facial hair going on here, guys. This is the COVID face look, yeah.
Yeah, the lockdown style.
I tried a Peaky Blinders self haircut yesterday, so I daren't turn my face to the side because I've got no hair.
Yeah, my other half has offered a few times, but I've declined.
You resisted.
Yeah.
Morning, Justine.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I was going to say I admired your Henley background for a second.
Yeah, I'm just playing around. Which one would you prefer? I've got to do Oxford tomorrow for.
Do Henley. It makes us all feel very tied into the brand, then, doesn't it? Oh, perfect. Very impressive. Great.
Morning, Harry.
Morning.
Morning, Ben.
Morning.
Hi, Isabel.
Good morning.
You well?
I'm very well, thank you. This is a bit bizarre. I've just come off another call and Justine was there as well.
I know, Isabel. There you go. You're stalking me.
Don't tell anyone. Oh, and Jane. Hello, Jane.
Good morning, Jane.
Good morning, Nigel. How are you going?
Very, very good, thank you.
Good
to see you.
And you?
Up in the loft then, Christopher?
Yeah, it's the safest place, I think, for the next 30 or 40 minutes. I've bribed my children with many things so they leave me in peace. We'll see how good my planning has been.
Good luck.
Good morning to everybody.
Morning.
Good morning, guys.
Good morning, Joe. How are you?
Good, thank you. Good.
So, guys, it's 9:31. So, if you're ready, we'll kick off. So, firstly, a very warm welcome to the Business Owners Forum. So, for those of you that haven't joined us before, what is it all about? Well, it's all about, first of all, learning from our coaches, because our coaches are out with many clients a lot of the time, so they're learning a lot of stuff which we want to pass on to everybody else. Secondly, it's about sharing best practice, because you as business owners are right at the forefront of everything that's going on. And over the last couple of months on this forum, we've had some great shares from people, which has helped everybody else. Pure gold. And lastly, it's about debating the issues, because again, you guys are leaders in your community. So what you are doing is really important. So those issues we need to debate and make sure we as business leaders are making the right calls.
David, can I just make sure we're recording?
Sure, we are. Got it. Thank you. And so we have three other coaches on the call today. So first of all, Joe Bentley, say hello to everyone.
Morning, everyone.
And we have Chris Evans. Chris.
Good morning, everybody.
And we have Nigel Nelms. Nigel, good morning.
Morning, everybody.
Now, we're also super lucky today to have on the call with us Victoria Gosling OBE. So, Vicky, can you say hello?
Good morning.
Good morning, Vicky. So
I don't know if my camera's turned on, or you can see me, but
we can see you, Vicky. We can see you. Fantastic. So, you know, Vicky's got so much experience she can share with us today. So, she's had a distinguished career in the military, where she got an MBE for operations in Iraq. And then she went on to be the CEO of the Invictus Games. And now she's the CEO of GB Snowsport. But also a few other things as well. I don't know how you find the time, Vicky, but a newspaper reviewer for the BBC, and a non-exec of a fintech company, and a mum, and a partner, and everything else. So thank you so much for being with us this morning. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
So let's get into business. So where are we? So we've seen this map before. So this is our journey map through COVID-19. So we've been through the lockdown period where we all rebased our relationship with our finances, we rebased our relationship with our customers, and we rebased our relationship with our team. And the last month or so, we've been on the training phase, which is about building a plan for the future. So what is our business going to look like post-COVID-19? But now we're in a new phase. Now we're in a phase where we pretty much know when markets are going to open up. So obviously some of us have been trading through this period, but now depending what sector we're in, we pretty much know when we're going to be back on the field. So instead of planning mode, we're now in execution thinking. Now, obviously, everyone's going to be back on the pitch at a slightly different time. Some of us are already back and been playing strongly for the last couple of months, but certainly in construction and engineering, everyone's back to work. So I went on a mountain bike ride yesterday and drove past, I must have been 15 construction sites. They were all open, whereas the same time last week, they're all closed. So clearly construction is back in play. Also engineering, a lot of the engineering firms are back in play as well. And quite quickly, a lot of the retail and office businesses are going to be back in play. So if you're in phase 1 or phase 2, then clearly you're going to have to make a decision about when you're going to go back to work, when you're going to bring your team back in, and how you're going to act. Phase 3 and phase 4, probably a little bit further on down the road. But when we get back on the pitch, then are things going to be exactly how we thought they'd be? Well, my guess is they're not going to be exactly how we thought they were going to be. They're probably going to be a little bit different to what we thought. So for instance, maybe if you're a physio or a dentist or things like that, maybe you think that customers might be a little bit reluctant to come back. But what happens if the phones are ringing because everybody wants treatment now? And maybe if you're a restaurant business, you may think that because people haven't been dining out for the last couple of months, that they will be running back to your dining rooms. But maybe they won't. Maybe they want more takeaway and delivery because they're a bit reluctant to come back into a dining room full of people. So the winners in this new normal, I think, are the people who, first of all, take the leadership to get back into the market, but also adapt really quickly to the reality that they're seeing. So that's what we're going to concentrate today on, is what's it going to be like when we get back in play, and how do we adapt quickly so we're the winners? So just before we go into talking to Vicky, I just wanted to remind you that there's a lot of people on the call today. You're going to get a lot out of it, but there's always going to be specific things that you may want to chat to a coach about. So don't be shy. You know, if you want a session with a coach, the 45 minutes is absolutely free. So please give us a call and arrange a chat with either myself, with Joe or Chris or Nigel. Don't be shy. Just give Isabel a call and she can arrange that for you. So without further ado, I'm going to pass you over to Chris, who's going to ask Vicky a few questions about how to really thrive in an uncertain environment. So Chris, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to hand over to you.
Thanks, David, and good morning, Vicky. I guess, Vic, you've been involved in some incredible situations and some challenging moments throughout your career. And I guess before I dive into those areas, It would be great just for those people on the call just to understand a little bit of your background and a bit of the journey you've been on through a number of different careers over the last sort of 20 or 30 years. So I'm really grateful, maybe just 2 or 3 minute overview of what that journey has been like for you so far.
Yeah, no, not a problem. So obviously 21 years in the military, culminating as a group captain. We're really fortunate to deploy pretty much all over the world. And in the latter part of my career, I was selected to help set up what became the Invictus Games for 2014, and then went on to become the chief executive in Orlando, which David obviously touched on. Following on from that, I was asked to go and help set up a fintech in Manchester as effectively a disruptor bank or disruptor financial institution, and then on that journey was then asked to go into what was British ski and snowboarding and effectively take that to a different level. In snowsport, which is for Olympic and Paralympic snowsport. So a bit of a varied potted history, eclectic, I would say.
Definitely. And I guess let's start a little bit back early on in the career. And I want to take you back to your time on the borders of Iraq, deploying to that area with special forces, following your planning scenarios that you did in the States. And you hear 3 really distinctive words that will always stand out and you will always remember. And those words, gas, gas, gas. And at that time you donned your respirator and you really realized you're in a completely different scenario and new environment. How did you manage, and how did your team manage in that environment, that completely new normal for you?
I think what was really interesting is having a clear, you're absolutely right. It was completely, surreal when you look back and reflect on it. But the reality was that we'd all been flung in it together, just like we've all been flung in this situation together now. And it was a case of, okay, right, we need to get our heads together. In the military, you find out pretty quickly that as an individual, you're fairly insignificant. It takes a really strong team to get the results that you want to achieve. So it was all about the mindset and ensuring that we had the right mindset. We were, well prepared, well trained in one way, but nobody can really train you quite for that moment in time, I would suggest. So it was, right, we're here. We didn't know how long we were going to be there, just a bit, literally a bit like this, we didn't know what did the end look like, and was the chemical and nuclear warfare being used on the end of the missiles? We weren't sure. So I just like, here, do we know where COVID-19 is? Again, it was the invisible enemy, really. But with a strong mindset, a clear mission, and actually everybody channeling their energy in the right direction, it was amazing how we got through that period of time. And we were hugely innovative. I mean, we had very limited resource. We were in a very austere base. And the way that the camaraderie and the way that people came together and focused on the mission in hand was hugely helpful. And I think what it has prepared me for is, I always say, look, if you face what appears at first glance to be unachievable with an unconquered spirit, then it becomes very achievable by the time you get there. And I can give numerous examples of that. So it's all about the mindset. It was all about the team. It was about the leadership and ensuring that we were focused on the mission in hand. And that kept us well, sort of effectively, we were focused. The distractions paled into insignificance because we had to be alert and we had to be ready to go.
Really interesting. And I guess in that scenario itself, when it is very clear around the mission and purpose and looking after the team, is there room for passengers in that environment, Vicky? You spoke about all being super tight and very focused, but is there room for passengers in that environment when I guess the dollar's down on the table?
No, really, if you want a clear answer. So no, I mean, you find out very quickly who's on the journey, and I set my goal, my stance from then on. When I got into GB Snowsport, I laid out very clearly what our vision was, what our mission was, and the same when I got into the Invictus Games. We had a short time frame, 9 months focus, put these games on and make them successful. And I lay it very clearly out and say, okay, you're either on the bus or you're off the bus. If you wake up in the morning, this excites you and you've got the passion and the drive to succeed, you're on the bus. if you wake up in the morning and it's just something there that, you know, it pays the bills, forget it, because you're never going to add the value that we require to be successful. And the reality is, out there, I sent, you know, 2 people home because we didn't have the capacity, the energy to cope with distraction or disillusionment, because you need people the energy that you can exude is contagious, and you need people to be bought into what it is that you're doing, and you need them to add to that positive energy. What you can't afford to be doing at times like now either is having negative energy and drains. You know, I would say stick close to your radiators and get rid of your drains.
Perfect, thank you. So moving away from, I guess, the time in Iraq and now taking your mind to Manchester, over the last 4 or 5 years, you've been working hard, raising funds to launch this new Challenger Bank, which is super exciting. And you were due to launch first week of April this year. COVID happens, the game has changed. You're now the Chief Strategy Officer in that business. What have you done differently since COVID's come in?
Well, I mean, it was interesting because we were, obviously it was up in Manchester. Whilst we'd been fundraising for quite a period of time, we were obviously still employing people into the business, and actually we got the main bulk of the funding in September last year for the equity, so which enabled us to then start employing people. We suddenly obviously all had to go remotely, and that has actually been incredibly beneficial because it focused the mind. We were obviously focusing it on launching one particular product, but what we realized really quickly was that the needs of our customer probably had changed slightly, and we were going out of the door with one product, and we had to reflect on that product and say, look, who's going to need our effectively a short-term loan. Just a quick overview of what that particular Challenger Bank is to do. It's effectively to address the overcharged and underserved. So, you know, the customer base that were targeted by your Wonga, etc., but to put a product suite in place that would cater for their needs, be more financially inclusive, and ultimately the goal and the mission is to contribute to a more financially inclusive Britain. So looking at the first product was going out the door, it was a test product, and we said, right, you know, we need to make this test product at 0% interest, and we want to target it at key workers, very much looking at the low income and 0 hours contractors. So anyone from working in supermarkets to refuge collections, you know, we wanted to put it on for 0%. But what was interesting, we had to pivot very quickly. And the way that we brought the team together and focused their mind because they wanted to give back was really exciting. Everybody went, you know, head on out the door to make it happen. But of course, there's parameters for anyone that's dealt with financial institution. We had to get FCA approval to get the variation of permission through quickly. That took time. We had to accept that we were going to delay going out of the door. We had to motivate people in a different way. But it all came down, the way we were able to do it was, again, focusing them on, look, the need has changed. We need to quickly react, and we need to take everybody in this team, you know, in our organization with us on the journey. And because they were focused on doing something beneficial that would contribute hopefully positively to the crisis that had been caused by COVID-19, it was amazing how quickly people reacted and pulled together. So another you know, setting out the mission and the purpose clearly for your people definitely drives the right behavior, particularly if they have shared values and you've recruited the right people on the journey with you.
That's really interesting. I think probably marries a little bit to the story in Iraq as well, in many senses, around that mission, clear values and purpose aligned with it. And I guess more latterly, and I guess some would say more exciting, I don't know if everybody's a ski or maybe a snowboarder, maybe there's another debate for another time. But you've set out, you joined GB Snowsport 2 years ago. It's fair to say, my memories of GB Snowsport on the mountains is probably Eddie the Eagle. We've not been that successful as a country on the slopes over the years. You came in, you set a very clear mission with the performance director, Dan Hunt, around being a top 5 snowsport nation across the world in Olympic and Paralympic disciplines. With a country with limited snow, should I say, and limited resorts. How have you gone about achieving this? Because I know you've had some incredible results over the last 2 years. I know our athletes are now off the snow, but how are you going to do this, Vic?
So what we did, well, I came in, it was called British Ski and Snowsport when I first took it over, literally this time 2 years ago. So the first thing I did was look at how could we needed a rebrand. It was very dated. It felt quite male and pale and stale, to be honest with you, when I went into the organisation. People have been there for years running it, and it was very much Alpine focused. So I went in, rebranded to something that the athletes liked, which was GB Snowsport. GB Snowsport, just a bit of background, actually caters for 8 snow sport disciplines, so everything from alpine to Nordic to ski jumping to moguls, and then I merged with the para snow sports. Obviously that was close to my heart from the Invictus Games, so I brought the 4 para snow sports under our umbrella, and then we created this GB Snowsport brand. We got rid of the silos because there was a real differentiation between your alpine athletes and your big air athletes. Break down the barriers and created this one family, and put the vision on, laid the vision out clearly to become a top 5 nation by 2030. But what all of the athletes and all of the coaches needed to understand was that in order to achieve that vision, they had to all pull in the same direction. So you couldn't have these barriers between us. We all needed to be under the one umbrella and focusing in that way, because the results from each one of those disciplines would count to get us to become a top 5 nation by 2030. So having rebranded, having pulled the Paris snow sport athletes and the Olympic snow sport athletes all under the same umbrella to become one team, we then set the foundation of what I call the 6 pillars of success that, again, I've kind of learned over time. And what did those 6 pillars consist of? They consisted of, number 1, the athlete first. So that's probably your customer first. So what does the athlete need? Just like the fintech, what does the customer need? What purpose are we here to serve? So putting, everything from strength and conditioning, nutrition, their well-being, their post-career life plan around them. Number 2 pillar was very much performance. So performance mindset. What does it take to win? So ensuring that we had world-class coaches, world-class facilities in place for these athletes. And by effectively ensuring that we, the best of the best, there's a chat. We brought in a Swiss coach to take our cross-border athletes on board. We brought in a French coach to take our moguls team to where they needed to go. And the same for, the Norwegian coaches, all the best coaches we could get our hands on to come on this exciting journey. And in doing so, we suddenly we noticed very quickly we were attracting British athletes back. So Charlotte Banks was the first to come across last year from France. She'd been competing for France. She was 4th in the world, but she's actually British. Mum and Dad were from Milton Keynes. Then we had Gus Kenworthy, 1 million followers from that. He's an American silver Olympic medalist. He jumped back to us because his mum was from the Camden Market area. And before we knew it, we were getting our own athletes back because they believed in what we were putting in place. And so we were attracting the best. By putting in the best, we were attracting the best and being incredibly efficient and lean. And again, not taking passages. You either had it, you've either got it and you've got the capability of winning. You've either got it and you've got the capability of coaching our athletes to the best they can be, or you don't. So we made sure that we were streamlining the people that we were bringing on board who were incredibly focused on the journey ahead. And the 3rd pillar was culture, which I think is incredibly important. Again, it was all about ensuring we had a diverse, but healthy, winning, minded culture. And we started training our Paralympic athletes, well, our Olympic athletes doing altitude training. That broke down the barriers and gave them a real sense of purpose together. And then the next pillar was innovation. We know in Britain we have got some of the best brains in innovation. So we started looking at the marginal gains. We rebought the team back from who created the bike for 2012 for us. And we're now focusing on aerodynamics, on waxes, on helmets, on the suits, on the snowboards, on the skis, everything we possibly can to create that marginal difference by using some of those incredible brains. We've got, the chief engineer from McLaren, for example, in our team. We've got Professor Bond. And we've got the Nobel Prize winner for composites looking at what we're doing. So very, very exciting stuff. And then, next pillar is all about partnerships. And partnerships, I always say about the water rising. Water rises together. Together we're stronger. My matchstick analogy, which I think you stole, Chris, last week. But
I wouldn't have done that.
If you have one match, you can break it in 2. If you have a bundle, it's really difficult to break. So with partnerships will be absolutely fundamental on this journey. and we've surrounded ourselves with the right partnerships. We're all about sustainability as well within snow sport. So we've created our hashtag, Our Winters Matter, and we're using that to partner with organisations that have that focus on sustainability. And again, we're looking for partners that have shared vision, a shared set of values, which will make us stronger. And then engagement. How do we, in this digital era, we know we've got, according to Nielsen studies, we've got a billion global audience out there. How do we, get the eyeballs on to our athletes in this era of digital? And we're all, really having to, use tech now to work remotely. We want to make sure that we get eyeballs onto what we're absolutely, we're actually doing. And it's a combination of those 6 pillars that will help us effectively take Britain to heights way beyond expectation and change the perception that we don't do this, because actually we've already in the past 2 years, as you rightly said, Chris, we've had the best results in British history across every one of our disciplines, and we are now putting more athletes across more disciplines on more podiums than ever in British history, and we're changing how winter sports is seen. But it's also a very good sport. We've got a nation full of Brits with grit, and it's a great sport for those types of, for that demographic, for those kids that effectively, I love the adrenaline, love the freedom, and focusing their minds. And we're now being innovative. Well, times are like this. Look at how can we use this sport for social impact and change social impact challenges, social challenges into medal opportunities. So it's all very exciting. Obviously, I get quite passionate about that one.
I can feel the passion, which is always a good thing. I guess my final question before I'm going to hand over to David is, I know some of the athletes from other countries are back on the slopes. Does that hurt? Does that hurt you and GBS?
It's all about the mindset. Bring it back to that. Let's focus on what we can do. There's certain things that are outside of our ability. We are now focusing on having our athletes becoming back, bouncing back, being stronger, fitter, more agile than ever before. We're using this time and being innovative in the training and strength and conditioning. They've not normally had this time. It's really important for us that the necks are really strong to prevent concussion, that they have the agility to be able to, effectively bounce back onto the snow. So it's amazing what you can do behind closed doors, and actually focusing that energy rather than resenting those that are getting back on snow, but saying, how can we use this time, this really valuable time, to build our athletes into a stronger mindset so they come back fighting fit effectively. So, are there frustrations that other nations are out there? In a way, yes, but actually it's amazing how we've really channeled that energy in a positive way.
That's really positive. It's always great to know that actually look after the things in the circle of your influence and not worry too much about the external things that you don't control. David, I'll pass back over to you, and thank you very much, Vicky, for responding so politely.
My pleasure.
Hey Vicky, that was awesome. I've stolen your 6 pillars as part of our new coaching material. So I hope you haven't got them patented.
No, my pleasure. Anything I can do to help.
Listen, we've only got Vicky for, I think, another 5 or 7 minutes. So great opportunity for anyone to ask Vicky any questions about, how to win in this uncertain environment. So I'm going to throw it open to the floor. Has anyone got any questions for Vicky? Just put your hand up so I can see you, and unmute yourself if you want to ask a question. Chris.
Yeah, hi everyone. Chris Baker. Hi, Vicky.
Hi, Chris.
One of my challenges at the moment is keeping people match fit. As we know, if you're injured, you're out for a couple of games. I'm a football fan, so if you're out for a couple of games, it takes you a few more games to get your mind and your physical self back being match fit. So it's really tough, because I'm talking about field salespeople. Got about 100 of them. I just wondered if there's any analogies that you could sort of pass across from the sort of sporting world into the business world about keeping people match fit from a physical and mindset perspective whilst they're effectively on the bench.
Yeah, I think a lot, what we've done as well with our athletes that's been really important is taking them back to basics. So giving routine, making sure they're setting some goals for themselves and individually, but giving them routine as well. So yoga and yoga and Pilates and that type of, if they're on their own in their home, what are they doing for themselves? It's giving them something to focus in on and actually give them some time and headspace. And we found that's been really helpful. But daily, just setting small goals so that they know what, they need to know what the outcome is going to be over here, but what are the small goals and the small wins they can do right here, right now, for self-preservation and to make them feel good about themselves internally, but also get them thinking, how can they add to what it is that you've set out in terms of the mission that you want them to do? How can, when they go back, what is it that they can do better to have the edge? And it's for each individual, it can be slightly different, but definitely having a routine and having time for themselves to really, feel, you've got to have the energy from within. And so that energy tends to come and flourish far more when they've got, they've had, some people don't like exercising, for example, but actually it's amazing what it can do for the mindset, even just taking a walk or just doing something different. So, and communicating as well with each other. So we set, we have our Friday night, bar, we call it our bar trolley. And it's a quiz night. Obviously they're athletes, but it's a Friday night and it's a letdown, and it's such good fun, and there's humour that comes with it. We try and forget about all the stuff that's going on around us, but it's a really good way of doing it, and get somebody else, each person to lead on it and be slightly different when they come on. What are they doing with it? Just so we can have a bit of fun with it as well, because I think sense of humour is absolutely key. And I think them knowing that they're in it, you're all in it together, giving them the matchstick analogy and telling them about the water rises. We all go up together. If we jump in, we need it to go up. So that feeling, I always said, about, as in the military, I was fairly insignificant, but actually with the team, my goodness, we could achieve some results. And it's that strength in unity, I think, is really important right now. And that positivity, having a positive mindset. It's amazing what you can achieve. There was a guy who effectively, a really good example for you to use, guy that he got blown up, lost 3 limbs. I went to go and see him in Henley in Sally Oak Hospital, completely lost the will to live, to be honest. He didn't know what he was going to do with himself. And it was incredible to see him bouncing back, swimming effectively 200 meters with one arm, because he put his mind to it. And it was in the Olympic pool, actually, in 2014 for the Invictus Games. And seeing the transformation, because he set himself baby steps. And then we gave him a goal and said, you are going to get into that pool, and you are, because he was a big swimmer, and you will swim 200 meters. We will find a way that your body can do this, but it's all in your head. And there's many examples like that I could share with you where there's an awful lot to be said about having the right mindset.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Vicky. That was great. Really, really useful.
Pleasure.
Any other questions for Vicky before she has to run away? Just put your hands up so I can see you. Anybody else? I've got a question, Vicky. So
okay.
you mentioned the importance of having a clear goal. So how do you communicate that goal and keep it front of centers in everybody's mind? Because often people get distracted. So how do you keep that clear goal in everyone's head all the time?
What I tend to do is, and I've been doing this with the FinTech, with GB Snowsport, with quite a few things that I do, is, what is that we need to achieve? So how does what you're doing right here, right now, contribute to that goal? And that helps focus the mind. So, challenging people over what it is that they're doing and how is that going to contribute to creating the right successful outputs, I think is really important. And having so not only do you have your goal, but you need to ensure you've got your values there as well. So that you're using your values to drive the right output. And the values need to be clear. So the values are really, it needs to be integrated into whatever it is that you're trying to achieve, and use your values and your objectives to get where you need to go. But constantly getting people to question, okay, I'm doing this now. Is that going to help to produce the right output? And it's amazing how quickly it will focus the mind. We've had to do, in particular, I would say we've had to do that with the FinTech. To say we need to be customer centric, we need to be financially inclusive. How is what you're doing reflecting our values and helping to achieve that end state?
That's fantastic. Vicky, look, I know you've got to run away because I think you've got to go to a board meeting or something. I'd just like to say a massive thank you on behalf of everybody that's on the call, because I know they've appreciated it and got a lot out of it. So thank you for sharing. Have an amazing day, and look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you, Vicky.
Thank you. Take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Everyone say goodbye to Vicky. Okay, so the last 10 or 15 minutes of the call, I wanted to concentrate on experiences about people opening again. So either people accelerating because markets are opening, or any stories about people going back into the market and opening up. So has anyone got any good shares in terms of how they've re-entered the market and how they found it? So anybody want to share?
Hey David, it's Tasha. I can share if you want.
Great, thank you, Tasha.
Okay, so just so that everyone knows, Ultra Sports Clinic, we are a sports injury clinic based in the heart of the City of London. And the City of London, as you can imagine, office workers aren't really around. But we do have a very passionate and focused client base. So we thought long and hard about, after Boris made the announcement on Sunday when we were going to open, and we made the decision that we're going in on Monday, this coming Monday. For us to do that, we had to do a lot of protocol following, and we had to change a little bit of our, consent forms. So legally, we had to just change some of that. We had to follow a few protocols in that sense. But before we did that, we did a survey with our patients just to gather the feel. And it's amazing how, yes, people are scared, but I'd say it's 50-50 of our patient base. 50% of it, they want it there and then. The phones have been busy. We're going in slowly, so we're just going in with one for now, and then we're going to bring in the next one in the 1st of June, and then we're just going to see the demand. So yes, it's slow, as you just said, David. It's not going to be the same as what we were when we left, but we can definitely see if we can just keep that growth slowly, and just keep that pace and the agility to move. I think it will be very good.
That's great. I think the important part of that is, obviously, customer behavior is going to change, but unless you're back in the market dealing with customers again, how are you going to learn? So actually, to a certain extent, you've got to go out into the market and learn as fast as you can so you can adapt. I don't think it's wise in this environment to just sit back and watch others, because I just don't think you're going to learn fast enough. So I think that's a really good example of getting back in the market and learning what's going to happen.
And you know, the other thing, David, which has been very interesting, a lot of our competition aren't going back. Okay, yeah. So we will be able to tap into some of their patient base, because the competition is either sitting back and grabbing the furlough from the government as much as they can, or they do not have the PPE, which we do, or they just scared and they just don't want to go because of the legal implications of potentially being sued because they haven't gone to a lawyer to check it out. So yes, I think we'll be ahead of the curve and we can pick up some of their patient base.
Fantastic. Any other shares about going back into the marketplace or accelerating for those people who are already trading? Helena.
Hi, construction health and safety consultancy. So obviously we have clients that now have immediate needs, so it's been about being able to respond quickly and give them that support with the government COVID guidance for different industries coming out on the 11th of May. There's been a lot of demand from our clients to give them that support, because risk assessment is fundamental for any business going back. It's all about the risk assessment and being able to then demonstrate that you can bring your people back safely or operate safely. So again, it's like, the demand being there, the increase in client support, so therefore you can bring yet another person back out of furlough, and that's what we've been doing. We took someone off furlough last week, we're taking another person off furlough this week. So it's we're responding as the demand is increasing. We're taking people back, but we're not rushing back. But it's about, and it's also on the Zoom call yesterday, it's about communicating with the team, telling them what we're doing, and also what crossed my mind earlier this week when I was doing our own risk assessment was that all our mental health first aiders are actually furloughed at the moment. So it was addressing that both in our risk assessment and with the team yesterday. And straight away, one of the teams who is a mental health first aider said, anybody can call me anytime, but I can't ask them to do that. So it was just trying to make that join up.
That's great. I mean, furlough is a great system to enable you to get back in the market and ramp up according to what customer demand is, because obviously you can bring people back as and when you need them. Yeah. So really, it's a fantastic system to get out there, trade, and bring people back as and when you need them. So, I'm a big Richie fan. I think furlough is a fantastic system he's put in place, and it allows us to come back in. Now, for those of you smaller businesses as well that haven't taken advantage of the bounce back loan, the bounce back loan is there to enable you to get back into the market. That's why it's called a bounce back loan. It's £50,000. It's really easy to get. The application form only takes about 3.5 minutes. They don't ask many questions. So, if those of you haven't applied for that, I would definitely do so. Any other good examples of experience over the last 2 or 3 weeks? Maybe an example where people have seen more demand coming back in the market, maybe more inquiries coming into the market. Any good examples from that perspective? I know Sam is looking like he's going to speak. Sam. Can you unmute yourself, Sam? Unmute yourself.
Someone. Good morning, everybody. I'm one of the fortunate runs. We run a financial services business out of Beaconsfield and do predominantly a lot of work with affluent private clients. And we were very quick and able just to carry on as normal from home. And in fact, removing the commute and the chat around the coffee machine has meant that as a business, we've actually been more productive. Staff members have been more focused because they don't have the distractions that sometimes the office place and the office environment created. And certainly the commute has been a big saving grace for us. We found banks and our providers specifically on borrowing, so the housing market, the commercial mortgages, development finance, that side of things, very quick to sort of pull up the drawbridges initially. Sort of one jumped and the rest followed. This was Lloyd's banking group restricting loan to values and pulling in surveys, and everybody followed. But the positives were that it enabled us to sort of keep hold of our clients when they were panicking and help them understand that this would pass and that normal would return in some shape or form, and that their goals and their needs were still there, and we would be able to, as a firm, help them acquire and do what they needed to do, just under different circumstances. So it sort of went to mapping out a six-week program of where we would be with the clients and touching base with them and holding their hands. And then as soon as the marketplace was ready to welcome business back, we were in the position to jump straight in and move forward. And I've had 3 record months of new business as an individual, because clients are sitting at home with all the paperwork that they were going to do this insurance, they were going to look at these investments, they were going to do that, and they've had time to look at them. So we're fortunate, but we're also not complacent, because we know that the markets are going to take a hit. There's going to be uncertainty. We don't know what the future is going to be like in the property market, house prices, stocks and shares, general wealth. High net worths are hit as much as everybody else. So we don't want to be complacent, but at the same time, we've got to have a very positive outlook and, say, well, we're going to grow our business this year. We're not going to contract. And actually, we've found ways through technology that we can all work a little bit smarter and harder.
That's another great example of, I think, the advantage of first mover. Yeah, because if you're the first mover, then first of all, your customers, a lot more customers are seeing you because you're more visible. And secondly, you are learning faster than your competitors. So, you know, I'd really encourage you to take the first mover advantage in your marketplace, be a leader, get out there, attract more customers, and learn faster than your competitors.
If I just say one thing, David, for us, I mean, I've always been, since I was in my early 20s working in the city, very much dreaming of technology in my industry that could improve not only my profits and productivity, but improve the relationships and the experiences that clients have with us. You know, everybody has a product and a service. And we made big investments in the last 2 or 3 years in going paperless and everything streamlined. And we chose a market leading global platform in which to run our business. And without it, we would have been in a big trouble. So actually, technology has been a real game changer for us and all of our team. And I think it's probably made this whole situation for everybody, you know, a lot better. So I think we're going to keep looking at technology to improve our productivity, improve our relationships with clients. And I would sort of recommend that that's been a great thing for us.
Yeah, absolutely. That's another great point, because, you know, those companies that invested in technology, they've moved very quickly into a tech-enabled remote working scenario. But those companies that were laggards, I think, in investing in technology, they've really struggled during this period of time, and their productivity has been really poor. Stefano, you're on the call. Stefano, why don't you tell us a little bit about some of your clients that have raised their game in terms of technology?
Yeah, we have a big contract with a really a fashion brand. They all over the UK, and we obviously they've been hit quite hard because all of the shops had to close. But a couple of weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, I had a couple of Zoom meetings with the guys that they look after their support for their IT solutions, and I suggested that instead of waiting for the shops to reopen, we should carry on some sort of maintenance on those shops to make sure that when they reopen, everything is ready for them. They can take clients in. And it's been taken really well. So we have now put a task force in place to go into the shops and get those shops checked to make sure all the payment machines are working fine. So they have a bit of a health check on that. And on the back of this, actually, because many people are furlough staff and they don't have engineers, we are now picking up more clients within the fashion or shop retail industry that they need people to go and visit their shops to check their payment machines or their IT is functioning. So for us, it's just allowed us to pick up new business, if you know what I mean, being proactive and just thinking a bit out of the box and suggesting something that people don't really think of because they're just so focused on how we're going to cope with this, how we're going to just do the social distancing within the shop, how do we source people. So IT was on the priority.
Fantastic. Thanks, Stefano. So just cognizant of the time. So we've been going 45 minutes. So just let's reflect on some of the messages that Vicky gave us. So the importance, I think, of having a clear plan, the importance of communicating the plan, the importance of having a strong culture and staying super positive. Then I think that some of the lessons that you guys have brought up is the importance of first mover advantage. Get out there in the marketplace. Learn fast. Adapt really quickly. Harness technology, because technology is going, all the winners are going to be using technology in the best way. And lastly, and I think all you guys doing this brilliantly, is stay super positive. Stay strong and stay safe and go out there and enjoy business, because business is there to have fun. So guys, thank you so much for joining us all today. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time. Love to see you in 2 weeks' time. Have a fantastic weekend. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, David. Bye.
David.